go to number 21, Tennessee, traveling to Kentucky. This will be Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. Two teams really needing to get up off the mat. Now, Kentucky's coming off an open week. They had the bye last week. And Tennessee, of course, blew the 13-point lead at halftime and was outscored by Alabama 27-zip in the second half. Now, Kentucky, they entered the bye week coming off of a 2-game losing streak. They lost convincingly to Georgia on October 7th, and they didn't look good in the home loss to Missouri. Just a lot of mistakes made in that game that led to them losing the game convincingly. Now, Tennessee has to figure some things out on the road. This has been a challenge. This game's in Neyland. It's a very easy one for me to pick. I'm taking the Vols. But the fact that it's in Lexington against a Kentucky team that feels desperate and has had some time to prepare, I think Kentucky's going to give them all they want. And Tennessee, their road woes have been something of note. Second consecutive road game for a Tennessee program that has struggled away from Neyland. They have dropped both of their road games this year and 4 of the last 5 SEC road games dating back to last season. So they have to, and their one win, by the way, at Vanderbilt. So we all know that while, yes, a road environment, technically by the letter of the law, there was more orange than there was black and gold in the stadium that night in November in Nashville. So you got to be mindful of that for sure. The other question about this one, can Tennessee run the ball efficiently? They are the best in the SEC when it comes to running the football. 7th in college football with 217 rushing yards per game. Kentucky, meanwhile, 2nd in the SEC and 13th in the FBS in rush defense. So good run game against good rush defense. 96 yards a game given up for Kentucky, 217 gained by Tennessee runners over the course of this year. The problem is that when you look at Kentucky, the way you get your yards against them, use the Georgia game as an example. That was the best example. Naturally, Carson Beck came out throwing it, and they did not have an answer in the back end. But Tennessee finds success when they can run the football. We talked about this stat last week. Vols are 20-2 under Josh Heupel when they rush for at least 175 yards. They are 3-8 when they don't hit that mark. They didn't hit it last week, and as a result, they lost the game to the Crimson Tide. The other thing that Tennessee has to do a better job of is they're going to be an aggressive group. That's what they've been. They've been that way for as long as I can remember. And last year, you look at what they did in 4th down situations, they were great, big time. I think they converted nearly 2/3 of the time on 4th down last year. That has not been the case. So far this season, they are just 3 of 13 on 4th downs. That is 129th out of 133 teams. Here's the even more significant issue. They're 1 of 5 on 4th and 1, including 2 that they were unsuccessful on last week, in Tuscaloosa. So in short yardage 4th down situations, to be 1 of 5 with a quarterback that's 240 pounds, that's troubling and something they need to figure out too, especially against a group that is pretty dang stout against the run. The reason why I don't love Kentucky in this game is that I don't, at the moment, trust Devin Leary to play efficient football. He's completed just 55% of his passes in all 4 games against SEC competition. The last SEC quarterback to complete less than 55% of their passes in 5 straight games was a while ago. So just take into account, man, this has been a pretty rough stretch for Devin Leary as far as his efficiency numbers are concerned. He also hasn't hit 130 yards in any of the last 3 games. And we know Tennessee's really good against the run. Plus the fact that he hasn't created big plays. He hasn't completed a high percentage of his passes. And to make things even worse, he's had 7 interceptions this season. Devin Leary's got to play his best game of the season to date if they are going to beat the Tennessee Volunteers. And the other thing for Kentucky, can they just play clean football and get the rushing attack going? Now, Ray Davis is having a massive year. He leads the SEC in rushing yards per game, all-purpose yards per game, and touchdowns scored. So he's doing everything that he can possibly do to position the Wildcats to be elite down the stretch, but he can't do it by himself. They have not been good. They have not been good as far as turnovers, and they have not been good as far as complementing that rush defense in any stretch of the imagination. You're going against a defense in Tennessee that's really, really good. No one's been able to get to 200 rushing yards on the Vols this year, just 110 yards given up per game. Combine that with some turnover issues. You had 3 against Missouri, multiple in 3 of the last 5 games. There's no margin for error for the Kentucky Wildcats in this matchup. A couple trends to consider. Kentucky is 0-6-1 against the spread following a bye since 2017, and Tennessee is 9-1 against the spread in their last 10 games following a loss. I like Tennessee to get the job done on the road to alleviate some of the concerns that we've seen from that group on the road and to finally knock off a team that's really, really good away from their home venue.